Okay, graphics department. Across the world.
I want to hear like the ticker tape. Yeah, telegraph.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of a dramatic sound. Well, this is now Bridge to a Better World. I'm Teresa Mitchell.
I'm Ani.
And we are ready to talk about the events of the day, including the Harris-Walz interview yesterday on CNN. That was the first chance that we had the traditional candidates get together. I mean, the presidential and vice presidential candidates get together to talk about policy. And so I went through the text. Oops, it's time to hit a button here.
Oopsies.
There, I hit a button. I didn't know I was dialing that in. The things that you find out. Anyway, I went through the text, and I found out that there wasn't a whole lot of tofu, surprise, surprise, to the interview. When you take out the salutations and the ditherings and the botherings and just get right down to it. But there was some tofu. There was some tempeh to this interview. And so I want to quote, actually, what Harris said when she was asked about.
So rubbed off on your speaking style.
That's true. That's true. You and Melody. Melody is the first one I remember saying, let's get to the tofu. Melody Silverwolf, ladies and gentlemen, may she rest in peace. Anyway, quoting Kamala Harris, day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, help them buy baby clothes, a crib. So that was kind of specific. And how exactly she's getting that through Congress, I don't know, but there are ways, there are means, and I believe that she can do it. And so that was the first substantial thing. And Walz was repeating that. He was in on it as well. And so I found that encouraging that she would, of course, she uses the phrase middle class, which we don't have much of in the United States. And the true definition of middle class actually doesn't need any help right now. What she means is workers, but people don't like to be called working class. They're afraid that that smears them as some sort of Marxian proletariat, which they are, but they don't want to be called that. So she knows that. She's a politician. She calls people who are squeaking by on, $40,000, $60,000 a year as middle class. Hardy har. But anyway, she intends to help with that. And following further on that, skipping ahead, as they say.
Okay. As you're skipping ahead, as your eyes are looking for your next, I thought I'd chime in on that. I think that it's really, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to see politicians actually name it, because we are talking about the working class. Anyone that actually works for a paycheck is part of the working class. But I also understand at this moment in our history and the high, how do we say, the hyperbole of rhetoric, that she is already, this ticket is already facing those crazy Marxists, those crazy socialists over there. No, not you.
Okay.
No, that's not my point.
Okay.
This is what, in fact, folks who, are more inclined towards Republican mega crowds, allow me to say, I've been on Nextdoor this week, and I am amazed at how many people think that Harris is some sort of red flag waving Marxist. I mean, maybe in my dreams, but this is not reality, right? And so they're already being painted with this brush. I think it's probably politically smart for them to avoid words that are going to reinforce that delusional.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Image.
I mean, if they want to get in office, they have no choice.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm saying, basically, more or less. Let's go.
Right. So continuing with that, she says, my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. Now, this got my attention because the only president who actually directly intervened in the price of things was Richard Milhouse Nixon. And
so true.
And Tricky Dick froze the price, for example, of gasoline and many items, including groceries. And people were happy about that. And people were kind of freaked out about it. It's like, wow, is this a dictator or what? But
in our family, I'm going to say we were Democrats as far back as, well, the last generation, because we were actually immigrants. We weren't here before that. But that said, I remember that moment because we had been, how do I say this politely, poor as fuck.
You were 7 years old.
Right. But I remember we were poor as fuck. I remember suddenly we, my aunt was serving up powdered milk, and we did not, we were relying on the largesse of my dad's union to tide over some groceries and things like that. I remember, my mother and her sister being freaked out that they could not afford the groceries that they were used to serving up. And, their husbands were still working. Things had gotten, well, kind of like they are today, right? Where the price of things were fast outpacing the means of most people. Anyway, I do remember the freeze, and I do remember suddenly they were like, "Oh, he did something good."
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
I think it was very necessary.
It was
That's
super
one of those,
necessary.
That's a part of our history that is.
But there was a
forgotten,
great
forgotten.
relief. I mean,
Yeah.
in my very working class family, that history has been entirely forgotten.
Because we were humiliated. We were whipped by the Saudis, and there are political repercussions to that. One of which was to make the gigantic petroleum reserve, which you hear about every now and then in elections. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that right now. Maybe some other time. Under the
Oh, and it's absolutely true. I'm going to mention to Jabara, yes, he does. And the megas do use Marxist, communist, and socialist interchangeably. It's because they're completely uneducated on it. And
boom.
as long as they hit something in the realm of Eastern Europe, circa the Cold War, then, they think that Americans will in fact go and hide under the covers and forget to actually look at.
Yeah, it puts an end to certain conversations like, do you think your boss should drink your blood directly from your neck? Communist?
Commie, what are you? I tell you, I put the little puncture in myself so he can.
That's right. And anyway. So another thing she said was that she wanted to extend the child tax credit again. And then she said, what we need to do to bring down the cost of housing, my proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers so they can have just enough to put a down payment. So that's very interesting. And it also comes in the context of her saying that she wanted to do 25% billionaire tax. And the billionaires have gotten really busy about that. And they're trying to convince us that it's, just absolutely anti-American and communist and socialist, and it would wreck the economy and everything they can possibly say to stop that. Because although they could easily pay it and it wouldn't change their lifestyle at all, it interrupts their megalomania. And they really, really feel that little people like us have no business even talking about how much wealth they have in the way that they hold it. Which is interesting, and I could talk about that all day. But right now I want to skip down to the conversation about fracking. Dana Bash asked Harris, do you still want to ban fracking? And Harris responded, no, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020. Now, Harris knew that this was a hot button. She said, Dana, excuse me, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president, so I'm very clear about where I stand. Now, this is disgusting, particularly since we're talking about, the reason she's doing this is that fracking is very popular in Pennsylvania, not because anyone thinks it's a good idea for the planet, but because it's been going on there. A lot of investors actually have been losing money on fracking, but it's paychecks in Pennsylvania. Too bad, because the stuff they're sucking up is full of radium, and I can talk about that on another show. It's more than disgusting and completely unnecessary, but there's no way she's getting elected if she loses Pennsylvania. So I was interested to see how she would answer this as a professional politician. Again, this comes in the context of we have a two-party system. we don't have a system which a party or a couple of parties can say, no way fracking, we stand against fracking, put us in the coalition. I like that much better, like you can do in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't have it, so let's see how she dodges this. And it was interesting. Bash followed up saying, and was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now. Now, that was just a great question.
That
because
was actually
Dana
a really good
knew
question.
the answer. She knew the answer was no, this is purely a political decision. But anyway, Harris answered, what I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking, which is just an obvious lie. So there you have it.
Well, an obvious lie, it's disingenuous. It's totally disingenuous.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's true.
I think what you and I talked about moments ago, I'll just remind you of our previous conversation in which we said, oh, yeah, this is a problem. But if you actually focus on it's that carrot and stick thing. You want to talk about banning fracking, which is going to lose you a state and the electoral blah, blah, that we kind of need to get rid of as a whole. Not a fan of electoral college, not a fan of the two-party system, right? These are both hindrances to our democracy. That said, we can look at growing the renewable resource energy section, right? We can grow actually focus and put all of our benefits, all of our infrastructure, what do we call those things? Oh my gosh, I'm a little under the weather this week, so words are a little elusive. But we can put all of our incentives into growing the green energy economy.
Exactly. She can
and make fracking passe without actually needing to ban it at this moment of the campaign.
That's true. We were talking about exactly that. I mean, she can metaphorically kick Charles Koch in the nuts by helping the solar and wind economy do what it's doing, which is roaring past.
And if you
petroleum.
read between the lines, I think that's actually what she answered there. But I would like what? We're going to focus on the green economy. We can focus on and have thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking. I think that's actually the dance she did. I'd prefer if she was flat out and she said, now, fracking's bad for the planet. Fracking's bad for us. Fracking's bad for the economy. Fracking only enriches, the already rich investors in the oil industry, and we're not having any of that. That would make my heart sing. I would dance on the mountaintop. But again, the reality of the two-party system means she's not going to be able to be that straightforward. What will she do in office? No, we're going to get to that in a minute.
Yeah, well, I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either.
So anyway, then she drew the conversation to the southern border where the Democrats are trying to out-Republican the Republicans, which I think is a very bad idea.
Horrible.
It's anti-human for a start. It's illogical. Pardon me for bringing out the Spock word, because as I've said many times, these are amazing people who can walk across Mexico to get here, bring in their kids, and they have all kinds of talents that are needed to build this economy. And it's true, to bring them in, to welcome them in with open arms would cause two minor problems. First, providing more housing, which we need to do anyway, and which the United States could, if it was determined to build housing the way it built B-17s, could certainly do in a trice and without a problem, and do it very well. The big problem is that angry white male Republican voters who feel that they are being shafted somehow by the system and refuse to look at the fact that they are simply outcompeted by women in college are angry to think that vigorous people might come in there and take their jobs as if it were a zero-sum option. Of course, it is not. Of course, we would all be safer and more prosperous if we simply let people in and acknowledge the fact that the planet is warming, there's a crisis, and we need to change a great number of things. But we do have the Republican Party for one, and the corporate part of the Democratic Party also dragging their heels and saying, no, 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 we've got to stop this and make things go back to just a few years ago. Just a few years. No, it won't work. So that's what I had to say about the interviews. There wasn't that much more meat in it. And
yeah, and what I'm finding more and more just, well, it's not a new trend, is it? I think we've been complaining about this for 30 years. What I find continuingly disheartening in an election is we spend, as the media spends, the majority of its time looking at the election as some sort of horse race, as some sort of sporting event.
right.
Which team's ahead? What's the strategy here? What are they going to do to this? There's very, very little time given to substantive policy issues beyond a soundbite, flash in the pan kind of rhetoric. There is very, very little time given to, oh, well, you say you're gonna help the middle class on your first day. You're gonna do these things. What's the mechanism? How are you gonna do it? What's going on? Is it legislation you're gonna introduce? Is it decree, presidential decree that you're gonna do? What are you gonna do? That's kind of what I want to know, because Trump, well, first day I'm just going to be a dictator. Yeah, really? How are you going to do that? What's going to happen? What are you going to do as a dictator? Yeah, I just want them to go a little bit deeper into actual policy, because I don't know.
And how they're going to do it.
Seems to me to be really why we elect officials, right, to enact policy. And so I'd like to hear details, as opposed to, one party is a bunch of sad cat ladies, and the other party is weird, which, let's face facts, the other party is weird.
That's what works, though. I mean, that's the system that we're in. And so that brings me to the cat ladies, which I wanted to talk about.
Please do.
It's being treated as a quirk, like it's just an odd phrase that an odd man is saying. And look at that funny man, J.D. Vance, saying cat ladies, but he says this a lot. And it has come out since he's taken the vice presidential aspirant spot, that it isn't just something that he says without, thinking about it deeply. He really believes in what he keeps repeating, that women have no value unless they're popping out babies. And this is something that feminists and people engaged in the post-Dobbs militancy, shall I say, have been pointing to. It's a serious thing, and it's repeated by the bro commentary section, the Joe Rogan crowd, which is politically potent. It's the Joe Rogan crowd that Trump hopes will put him over the top. It's the angry and frankly stupid young men who are nodding their heads with this and saying, yeah, these women are getting in our way. And it's sort of like the analysis for capitalism and socialism. They will never get to the root. They will never frame things in a way that allow you to understand how you're being exploited. And so they talk about women being lacking moral strength, and they talk about abortion being a moral failure. Now, of course, none of these things are true. And really what they want, what these young guys want, is to take the sting off of their humiliation at the hands of women who have been outcompeting them, most notably in college. I think it's widely known, and where it's not known, it's loudly contradicted and denied. Women have been outcompeting men in a number of ways, and especially in college graduation, in grades. They study better. This is a world in which you study better, you get better wages, you're more valued by employers, and or you can create a more valuable commodity yourself if you're an entrepreneur. So women have been coming out and showing up men. So men haven't said to themselves, what is it about my personality that keeps me from studying as hard as women do, that keeps me from taking my studies as seriously? They're not going to ask that. They want their position of the previous world in which women were continually interrupted in their studies and in their career by producing children. Producing children was a great way to put men ahead, because traditionally, more than traditionally, culturally and by law, women are far more in charge of the women that are of the children that are produced by a union of men and women. And men don't take responsibility for it. It's just like it's something that happened instead of that being half of their genome in there. So we have a situation in which men look forward and see that they might have to wash the dishes, and they're pissed.
Well, and I think beyond that, what I have noticed is in the late 70s, early 80s, let's just say, there was this huge shift, cultural shift, to go from the role model of father knows best, the patriarch, benevolent dictator of the family, to the new Alan Alda sensitive feminist guy.
Alan Alda.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm talking 1980. I was in high school and this shift was happening. And I remember, in college, talking to a bunch of guys who were like trying really hard, like, oh yeah, they were going to try really hard to be feminists. They were going to try really hard to, be open and new, and mostly because they thought it was going to get them laid more, frankly, right? But after their second breakup, after their divorce, it was like, well, I tried to be nice. I tried to play the game and be a feminist, and look where it got me. I have to pay alimony.
Yeah.
And then they go hard right into red pilldom. And this is sort of the path I've seen. It's like, a large swath of sensitive new age guys become extremely bitter, hateful, misogynist after a heartbreak, because they can't possibly just heal and express sadness.
So along comes Trump. Victim mentality. Well, that's his middle name. So I think that's what it's about. That's the core of it. Is it's just another backlash, as you were saying the other day, and it's a really intense one with at least at the core of the party, an idea that we will go to. Don't say it, but it'll be Gilead. They won't Gilead very much, and women who are shamed by their reproductive powers, women who are interrupted by, knocked down by their reproductive powers, and therefore submissive. That's the kind of women that they want going forward. And if we lose this election is being framed as the boys versus girls election, and that's simplistic, but there's a lot of truth to it. I see that as things are going to go very badly for women if Kamala is not elected. And I kind of wanted to start off with the Bash interview and talk about, the bullshit that she sprouted to kind of get it out of the way, because that, by comparison, of course, it's like the sunrise versus the caves. I mean, there's no question that it is appropriate to put massive resources into this election, and if possible, making this such a reaction that it crushes the Republican Party. My hopes, my dreams go in the direction of something like a tremendous blue wave, followed by a green and socialist wave, because there is a general strike coming up on May 1st, 2016, and it is being organized 2026. I did that last week. 2026, and it is being organized by labor, and it will be a real general strike for once. There's a possibility of moving forward in a way that we haven't seen since the 1940s, and I would be greatly pleased to see that in the waning years of my life, shall we say, or in the middle of my life. Who knows? Some great drug.
In this our third age.
Yes.
I think that. And so here's the path I think forward. First of all, I want to say we are, I'm Ani.
I'm Teresa.
And this is now Bridge to a Better World, this live stream we do every Friday morning. And thank you for joining us. Please hit the like button and share this with family and friends. If you aren't a subscriber yet, please do subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button. Teresa made good on her longstanding threat to come in with some breaking news analysis earlier this week. So you don't want to miss that. Hit
I really
the
enjoyed that.
notification button, because I have a feeling as this election cycle continues, we might be doing that a little more often, as there is breaking news several times a week at this point. So in the national and the international geopolitic, there's a lot to talk about. And so let's oh my gosh. Oh yeah, the way forward. I know that's where I was going. So for years, for most of my adult life, I have voted third party because I really want to see us build up third party. I want to see us build up options. I am not doing that this time. I did not do that last time because I think it's, at this point, we are having that pants on fire 10 bell emergency to stop somebody who is actually fascist. Not the fascist that many of us have thrown around for years because there's some unjust law that is restricting, our right to assemble or something like that. No, we're talking full-on frontal assault fascist, Mussolini fascist.
And as John, or is it Upton Sinclair, predicted, he is wrapped in the flag and bearing the cross.
Yeah, absolutely. It really can and is happening here. And so at this point, I relent. I get it. If we want to stop the super bad, we are going to have to go with the dissatisfying sometimes. It's okay. I still am super excited about Walz's history. I'm pretty excited about Harris in many ways.
I'm very excited. I mean, because it opens the door. I mean,
yeah,
I'm fired. I know it's contradictory, but here I am.
And what I would like to say is, here we are. So let's go ahead and back it. But unlike previous, and I think I said this last week too, unlike previous elections where we get to take a big sigh of relief. I'm looking at 2008, for example. I remember going out in the street. Actually, in my office had created a full bar because I was working at a little community radio station that we all probably know. And there was live election coverage, and volunteer reporters were running around all over the place trying to, sort of bring together the news. And I figured my support work that night was opening a full bar in my office and serving up some drinks when people had finished their shifts. And I just remember when it got called and we had found out that, in fact, Obama had become the president. I had joy just sort of running through me it was unexpected how palpable that relief was.
Do you remember that? It was happy, stunned people going. I remember in the area of your office, people going around in happy, stunned little crowds. Sometimes holding cocktails that they had apparently taken right out of the bar. They were just, absolutely delighted.
Well, and so what I was thinking about that is many of us, those folks congregating in the area of my office, proceeded down Burnside, toasting each other. There were literally people pouring out of places on the streets. We were all high-fiving each other. There was some spontaneous dancing going on. And I thought, wow, that's weird. I didn't even vote for this guy because I was way into the third partyism, but I was so relieved, right? And I thought, yeah, he even said, hold my feet to the fire and make me be the change. And I hate that phrase because it comes straight out of the Inquisition, but still.
Yeah, it was so true, though. I mean,
and then we didn't.
Yeah.
Because, in fact, if anyone said anything critical of him, if anyone in the peace community said anything critical of him, the establishment was like, well, what do you want? We got what we want. Shush already. We can't really organize. He's great. Well, in fact, he was, continuing to do a lot of drone bombings that killed a lot of civilians. He was deporting people in a massive way. He was doing a lot of stuff that was not great. And
give him some time. What are you, racist?
Yeah. And we should have continued. a good oppositional movement, right? To push for peace, to push for a sane and compassionate policy around immigrants and asylum seekers.
That is such a good point because I mean, Kamala, if we will get Kamala in office, I think, and
I pray
that 25% billionaire tax, that's very possible, and it will open the door. I've been saying a technicolor door if it's brought back to the society, and we could go back to having a prosperous society. It would be so wonderful. It cannot possibly happen without a ferocious, continuous movement insisting that it happen.
Well, yeah, and so this is what I want to see. I want to see Harrison Walz get elected, and then I want to see a continue groundswell of justice-seeking Americans looking for economic justice for the working class, looking for relief for folks without houses, so that we can, in fact, spend our resources to get mental health treatment, to get more housing built, to get all manner of the social goods, the safety nets repaired that have been absolutely rent at this point. And so push. And maybe what we could see is we were sort of looking at the Republican Party last year as looking like it was going to split between the, what do you want to say, traditional Republicans and the MAGA crowd. Well, it kind of seems like everyone just sort of went MAGA, and that some disaffected Republicans are more towards the, coming in towards supporting Democrats at this point.
It's one of more you would call a rump faction. I mean, they're defeated. They're still around, but you have to, look in dark corners to find them.
And yeah, but here so as we move forward to continue the push for justice, we have to continue to push for a ceasefire, because what a fucking horror. We have to continue to push for less military spending and more spending for our own infrastructural needs, education, and child welfare for all, really. And when I say welfare, I mean the well-being, to support the well-being of all. And so, in that way, maybe what happens is we get a far more progressive Democratic Party than we have. Perhaps we add to the Progressive Caucus. Perhaps the Democrats split, right, into the establishment, let's just say the Pelosi-Schumer crowd, and the, AOC Rashida Tlaib crowd.
AOC got to speak at the convention, and I think that we are seeing the results. Bernie got to speak at the convention, and they're very much hoping that people will look at that and say, "Oh boy, that's what the Democrats are about," because it goes back to that two-party thing. They need everyone, bamboozled, and who knows what they'll actually come out with. But it represents tremendous progress to have Bernie and AOC out there.
Yeah, the whole bamboozle comment I could have done without, but it's what?
There's still the corporate Democrats. Well, does to change
and
that.
Yet, yeah, right. I think that's pretty much my point. Okay, right. So, it is up to us to continue to push in a direction that is humane, that lifts up all people and protects the earth on which we live. It's the planet that supports us. We kind of need to support it.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm switching to tarot.
Let's do that.
So this morning, what I got.
What do the kitty cats tell us today?
We have the Five of Pentacles. We have the Four of Swords. And that's that one. Yeah. And we have the Nine of Pentacles. Not very good at looking at things upside down and
they're
backwards.
all inverted. Well, you should show them all.
They are
right
all
side
inverted.
up so we can see what's being inverted. I mean, that would be handy from my mind.
Okay, here we go. It is the Five of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, and the 9 of Pentacles. And what does this all mean? As they all did come out inverted, it means a few things. It means right now a lot of us feel like we might be slogging through molasses, right? When we see a lot of inversions, we feel like we're having to put in a lot of extra effort to see the results we want. So what do they all mean together? It's a call to let go, to not focus on personal egos right now, to keep a balance between pushing ahead and making sure that we're still taking in the biggest picture. What does this mean? It is also about, again, not focusing on personal needs so much, but looking at the broader good for the community. And if I'm just going to say, liking it straight back to what we have been talking about, there's a little bit of a feeling in this of sort of okay, let's talk about this card in particular. If the card was in fact right side up, the cat doesn't look that much different, right? But this is the tail of this card is there's exhaustion. We need to sort of take care of ourselves, maybe not do so much at the moment because it's important to care for the heart, mind, body, before we can keep pushing. But it's not right side up, it's inverted. And what does that mean? It's a call to look at the difference between, there we go. It's a call to look at the difference between exhaustion and paralysis. They both mean we stop moving. One is to sort of take care of ourselves and let ourselves re-energize to move forward again. And the other one is, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm not going to do anything. There's nothing. There's no good path forward. I cannot sully myself by voting for these people I don't agree with. I mean, hell, she said something squidgy about fracking. I will not. That's not what we're looking for, right? So it's about being paralyzed, either in fear or in confusion, and needing to do what you can to break through that paralysis. The 5 of Pentacles inverse really looks at needing to let go a little bit more, needing to not be rigid at this time, and to look for a bigger community. And this ever popular 9 of Pentacles inverted talks about maybe a little too much focus on self, not thinking about consequences for others, and asking that one expands their view. And so when I am adding all those things up, I'm like, oh, yeah, here we are. We are in a place where I'm not sure we really totally want to be, but we're here. And we have a 2-party system. That is the reality. We have a party that is offering some amount of relief, hope, and a path forward, and a party that's offering complete annihilation and fascism. I don't know. I wish to God there was a third answer too, but there isn't right now. And so I would say these cards, not focusing on the self, focusing on the needs of the broader community, letting go a little bit and not getting paralyzed, mean that we move forward together, we support this ticket, and we keep moving forward after that to push in a direction that is going to uplift us all. That's what I see.
And if it is possible to talk to the young guys, I don't know if it is, then, one thing I would like to say is this notion that gets pushed around by the GOP, that they're the fiscally responsible party, is obviously demonstrably data-driven.
Stupid.
It's false.
It's lies.
They've never been even close to responsible.
No.
Well, maybe in the 50s.
Okay, so thank you all so very much for joining us. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe if you haven't already done so. And we will be back next week, if not sooner. So hit that notification bell and you'll be in the know when we decide that something is happening and we really need to talk to y'all about it.
So a fond good morning to you, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea. There's the telegraph.
Woo!
Thanks for tuning in.